To me, honoring is like when I step out like of this house, I know that everything that my mom taught me and my dad taught me, I will like continue to represent and honor them. Basically, to be a good representation of like
who they raised you to
be. Who they raised me to be.
Welcome to Emunah, where faith meets real life and honest conversations help us grow closer to God and to one another. Today's episode is a special Esther Girls conversation. Middle school moderators Samara and Shylah are taking on a big topic: authority, obedience, and respect, especially when respect feels hard to give. In a world where many students struggle to honor teachers and leaders, these young women ask courageous questions. Who should we listen to? What does God say about obedience? And how do we show respect when authority isn't perfect? Through stories of Ruth and Naomi, Queen Esther, the Prodigal and Lost Son, and even Disney's Hunchback of Notre Dame, they explore how faith helps us recognize the difference between true leadership and harmful power. Let's listen as wisdom meets honesty right here on Emunah. Samara and Shylah, introduce yourselves. Tell Emunah listeners about yourselves.
So, hi, my name is Samara, and I go to DC Prep, and I'm 14 years old. And I'm gonna pass it on to my sister Shylah.
I'm Shylah. I'm 13, and a hobby of mine, I like to dance, and also I like cooking.
Okay, that's great. And Emunah listeners, I don't think I introduced myself. I'm the host, Dr. Tamara Henry, and Sister Cynthia Howie is an awesome teacher in the Prince George's County, Maryland School District. Sister Cynthia, welcome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ask the Girls. Get ready for an awesome podcast today.
Great. So, Samara and Shylah, what does the word respect mean to you?
Respect is like feeling like admiration for that person, or like kind of looking up to them, and just like well, I don't mean to use the word in the meaning, but like kind of like just acknowledging what they're doing and just looking up to it, and just it's just like a feeling of basically admiration to someone's like actions.
Okay. Samara?
Respect is like what you give to somebody, and it's also what you give to yourself. It's like the feeling of what you think you deserve and what you think you should be able to bring upon others because of what you have or what you see in others.
Okay. So, do students at your school respect teachers?
I would say it's a mix of like they decide if like pick and choose who to respect, or like they just if they feel like a teacher doesn't respect them, then they don't think, oh well, it's still an adult, so I should still show them respect back, or like still show respect. They do the opposite of respect and be disrespectful. So it's pretty common that like leaders or authorities aren't really respected, basically. They're more like laughed at.
Why do you think the students at your school aren't as respectful of teachers and counselors and principals and the leaders as they should be?
Because I feel like it's more about where they come from, like their environment or how they feel about themselves. Because I feel like if you respect yourself, then you're also going to respect others. Or if you come from like an environment that may have not shaped you well enough to like know what respect means or when to know to identify to be like respectful to others no matter who they are or how they are or what they're trying to do. I feel like that might be the reason why people aren't as respectful as they should be because at the end of the day, they're still very young and they're still teenagers and they still don't know like what's going on around them or how to like respond in certain situations. So, although it's like very common for teens to feel this way towards adults, like very unrespectful, I don't think we should hold them at our heads because we were all teenagers before. And at some point, we're going to learn respect either like through our environment or where we came from, through ourselves, or like the hard way or from like somebody else.
All right. Have you ever disagreed with a rule but still had to follow it?
Yes.
Like every day at school, like there's a lot of rules that I think are unfair and like other
Like
people break
dress
it.
codes.
Yeah, like your grade, they like get to walk around with like because our school is like a uniform school policy, so we can't have on like sweaters or like
Specific pants or
yeah.
shirts,
We last year though, you could wear like gray, blue, black shirts, like white shirts, but
cargo pants, stuff
but
like
this
that.
year but this year you like can only wear like the shirts with the logos on it. But their grade, they let them wear like white, gray, and blacks, like and all that, even though the rest of the school can't. Like they'll tell you to take it off. And or they and if you don't come to school with like no uniform on, then like you get a consequence and you get like you have to change. But their grade, they just let them walk around with the stuff, like they don't say anything to them. The only thing they say something to them about is like hats and stuff. But
Or like the hoodies. We
yeah,
have like a very strict hoodie policy, but some kids break it, but they give them extra shirts to wear or like pants or skirts, stuff that they need.
but it's like a policy that we have to follow every day, even though we don't really agree with it. And like, yeah, just a lot of stuff in my school I don't really agree with, but I still like have to follow it.
I tweak it a bit.
Okay, so what makes it easier or harder to respect an adult? Do you find it easier to respect an adult who is following the rules and shows compassion and kindness? She or he are seen as nice people. Is it easier
Yeah,
to respect someone like that?
yeah.
Who said? Mm.
I feel like it's more easier for me to respect an adult if like they're more like attentive to all the students and just like not just like a selective bunch.
Yeah, they're not
I feel
selective.
like it's more easier because like you know you're just like sitting in class and you're trying to get the work done and yet you see probably like the smarter students getting more attention and more like work
Oh,
to be done than
yeah.
students who need help or you see the students who are like always disrupting the class getting more help than others and that just leaves you in like a state of observation of how like comparison how you're getting treated and how they're getting treated differently and I feel
Yeah,
like I base my respect based on how attentive you are to each and every individual student because I know how hard it is to like depending on the amount of students that you get but it's also like are you like observing the students who like deserve the most amount of effort that you put into the work Like, are you making sure that everybody else is getting what they need to do and understanding the material so they'll be able to succeed in certain aspects of like the learning environment? Or are you just like having favoritism or bias towards a certain group?
Okay. Thank you, Samara and Shylah. That's wonderful. And Emunah listeners, I'm so excited about Sister Cynthia. She's always bringing such, words of wisdom, but today especially we need her voice. Being
I
a
am
teacher in the school system.
I am ready. I am ready. I thank you for saying that and voicing and being honest and transparent with how you feel because I love this quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. People don't care how much you know until they know how much people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So when you show people that you care about them, and that quote is from a president, Teddy Roosevelt, when you show people that you care and that you value what they have to say and that you are inclusive, and including everyone, not just people who speak all the time, because everyone has something to say. They may say it in a different way. But I thank you for sharing your feelings on that because as teachers, we need to be aware of that. And I have observed that from some teachers also, that they always will point and ask the students who are quick to raise their hands or, always have the answers. And I just had this conversation today with my husband, who is a teacher, and sometimes teachers will say, they're asked a question and no one answers. And they'll say, all right, don't let me start calling names and calling you out. Well, I'm not that kind of teacher because I don't ever want to put anyone on the spot and make someone feel bad if they don't know the answer or they're not prepared. But I know that sometimes people say that and they joke. But what I will do is I'll engage a student and just come to you and say, Shylah, do you have anything to say? Samara, would you like to add anything to the conversation? And if you say no, then that's fine. But I thank you for saying that because that does happen a lot in the school system. And maybe this is a conversation that teachers need to have with students and do surveys to find out what you all think about us and our teaching styles. I think that would be a wonderful addition because maybe some teachers are assuming that they're very good teachers and the truth might show different on a survey. So thank you for that.
Okay. Now I have scriptures for, I chose one for each of our words: authority, obedience, and respect. So for authority, I have Hebrews 13:17. Obey your spiritual leaders and do what they say. Their work is to watch over your souls, and they are accountable to God. Give them reason to do this with joy and not with sorrow. That would certainly not be for your benefit. And then for obedience and respect, because Samara and Shylah are middle schoolers, I chose Ephesians 6:1 and 3 and Colossians 3:20. So Ephesians 6:1 and 3 says, children, obey your parents because you belong to the Lord. For this is the right thing to do. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise. If you honor your father and mother, things will go well for you and you will have a long life on the earth. That was Ephesians 6:1-3. And Colossians 3:20 says, children, always obey your parents, for this pleases the Lord. So I just wanted to ask, just throughout this question, is respect something people automatically deserve, or do they have to earn it?
I feel like it's different for like children, like as like a younger person or like as a child, you should automatically give adults respect. But like when it's like another child to like another child, I feel like respect is definitely earned. Like, cause I'm not just gonna, cause a lot of people I still give respect to, even though they don't treat me very well or that they don't respect me. But I just feel like it's like I don't know, but it really depends on like the dynamic or like the relationship.
Okay, great, great. Can you respect someone even if you don't like their decisions, Samara?
Um, I think I would respect somebody based like even if it was bad decision because I always look at it from different types of perspectives. Like if you're like a bad person and you make bad choices, I like I give respect because even though you made bad choices and you are a bad person, you still have like redeeming qualities. And if I can like see there are qualities in you that are like redeeming, then I could like I respect people as like a person because I feel like everybody should get respect equally no matter who or what they do.
Okay, okay. Can you tell me the difference between obedience and agreement?
Okay. I feel like you want to answer some of
Um, yes.
that?
I'd say obedience is like it's kind of like a submission to like goodwill or a submission to like something. Agreement, it's like you can agree to something, but that doesn't automatically mean like you submit to it. Like you're just like gonna let it happen. Like let's say if there's like a key difference, like there's two people and one of them's and like it's like both conversations like says, would you can you apologize to me? And one person like agrees to apologize to you, and the other person like they're submitting, like they're agreeing to apologize to you, and like they're not gonna do it again because of that obedience towards you, and they respect and they want to like follow your command too. Versus like the person who just agrees because they can have any type of feelings towards you, but they could just agree to it.
Okay, all right. And this whole idea of obedience and honoring your parents, what's the difference, Shylah, between obey and honor?
Obeying is like listening or completely like be able to comply with like the what they ask you to do or like the orders that they give you or like the advice that they give you. And I was just talking to my dad about this, like how he was talking about how he, as a child, like never really was like obedient to like his mother and his father. And later when he grew up, he had to apologize for how he acted. And he
Mm.
said I would like grow up to apologize to them too. And but there's definitely a difference between what you said complying and I mean, oh, and honoring. Honoring is basically like to me, honoring is like when I step out like of this house, I know that the everything that my mom taught me and my dad taught me, I will like continue to represent and honor them
Like
and
honoring
like
your name.
yeah, like what they taught me, like and like what they basically to be a good representation of like
Who they raised you to
yeah
be.
who they raised me to be.
Yeah, excellent. That is wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so Emunah listeners, we have Bible stories that represent these terms that we've been using obedience and honor and the like. So, who wants to go first? We have the parable of the prodigal son or the lost son, or the story of Ruth and Naomi.
Go first because I feel like my story's a little bit shorter, but
Okay.
so this story is basically about like redemption and hope. And so it's about a father and his two sons, and they lived on a farm, and the father really loved himself, really loved his sons, and he loved to see like his sons working on the farm. And so one day, the youngest son, he felt like restless and he wanted to explore like outside of the farm. So he went to his father and he asked for his father, like the family money for his fair share. And the father, he was sad, but he like still gave the son the money. And so when the son like left and he was exploring and he at first like everything was good. Like he was throwing parties, he was having celebrations with these people, he had a bunch of food, and he just felt like amazing. And then his money ran out, and all of the friends that his quote unquote friends he had, they were fake, and they all left, and he was left with no money. He had no food, and he didn't have a single coin. And to make it worse, the town had hit fam, feminine. I don't know how to say that word.
Famine, yes.
Famine. And so basically there was no food. So he had to get a job, and he got a job like working with pigs and like taking care of the pigs. And then he was like really hungry, and he considered like eating the pigs' food. So that's when he just thought that like the servants back at the farm, they like live a better life than this. And he has to basically go back to apologize to his father. And so he's walking back, and he's like kind of like close to home, but not really. And his father, he had been like looking and seeing like when is the son gonna come back, like if he will come back. And so his father sees him, and the son says to him, "Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am not worthy to be called your son. Please let me work for you." And she basically said that to him, and the father was just happy to see him and hugged and kissed him, and basically said, put a robe on him, put slippers on his feet, throw a feast for him, and they were just celebrating that his son was finally back home. And the eldest son, he was like confused and he was frustrated, and he was trying to figure out what was all this about. And so he went to his father and was like, I've basically said that he's like been loyal to him. He's been working for him all this time. Like, why have you never threw a celebration for him? And his father says that everything I have is yours, and that we must celebrate that he was lost, but now he is home and found. And so this story basically shows how the story of like forgiveness and love and hope, and like how like no matter how far we like drift away from our home, that there's always a way back.
Oh, that is excellent.
I love that.
Excellent, excellent.
It's one of
All
my new
right.
favorite stories.
Okay, Samara.
Um, so my story is about the theme of devotion and obedience through Ruth and Naomi's journey. The story was about how Naomi had her son and her husband, and what happened was her husband had died and her son had died too. And because of that, she was left a widow, and so were her daughter-in-laws. So she had to go back to her homeland, Israel, to find themselves a home and somewhere stable to live. She was in like so much despair. It's like she described herself as being full and nourished because of her family and who she was with. And after she had lost her husband and her children, she said she had felt empty and that the Lord has taken everything away from her. And on her journey back to Israel, Opel and Ruth also went to the journey with her. And so before they had stepped foot into like Israel, Naomi told Ruth and Orpah that they do not have to go with her, and they should go back to their homes and find permanent homes with husbands and children, and she has nothing to offer them or to give them. She has no son, she has no husband. And they were both in grief and sadness, trying to like stay with her, but only Ruth stayed with her because she had said, her people will be my people, her God will be my God. If I if you die, let me die with you too. And that shows so much devotion that she's characterized by and her loyalty towards Naomi and God. And she is traveling with Naomi now, and she had worked alongside her, giving her food and making sure that she is safe and is well, even though she did not have to. And she had met somebody, and Naomi was like, you should have a permanent home. You have worked so hard for me. And when Ruth was had a child, she felt like she was full again, like she was nourished, and that God had that God never left her. All the townsfolk were saying God had never left you. He had stayed with you throughout all this time and gave you another chance to have a family again. And I feel like the overall theme of that is having devotion and loyalty and obedience throughout like your life and journey. Because even though like during hard times, and even though during times where it feels like you're empty and the Lord has left you, He will always be with you in unseen acts and in unseen times. And you don't have to, you have to like, you don't have to acknowledge Him throughout the journey, but you have to like know like who He is throughout and like what His acts have done because of it.
Okay, okay. Very, very good. Very good. And you want to tell us just a little bit about Queen Esther? I know this is a lot of work.
Um, Esther, she was a Jew, and during her times, I think there was like a lord or king ruling throughout them, and the Jews of like Israel, they prayed and they worshiped God, but it was illegal to do that, and the act was a death penalty because you were only supposed to worship and honor the king. And so when the king had lost his queen because she had disobeyed him, because she didn't follow his rule of dancing in front of his friends, and while they were drunk, she had respected herself and she had lost herself because of it. But that's when the king decided he was like lonely and to find a young woman to marry. And Esther like carried God's grace and silent humility, which made her stand out from all the other women. And it was almost like fate, or like she was chosen because the king had asked her to marry him. And when that happened, there was chaos like happening within the walls because there was someone who was in the palace who had talked to the king and offered an idea to erase and eradicate all Jews because of his own feelings and beliefs against them. And Esther had an uncle who was a Jew and told him of the news. And all the Jews in the kingdom were sad and in despair because of the execution that was coming. But Esther said, you have to give me 3 days and I will save my people. And she came to the king, not for herself, but for her people, and to preach to him that she needs, like, her people need to be set free and her people need to not be killed. And the king had allowed it. And also, the man who preached for the execution of the Jews was executed himself because he had clinged on to Esther, begging her not to tell the king about his eradication of the Jews. And the king couldn't like overrun his own rule, but he did make another rule that would be able to like defend the Jews, and that kept them safe, and they were all in hope and they were all happy and joyful because on a day that was like meant to eradicate and execute them became a day of redemption of who they are and like their own lineage. And I feel like this overall means like having faith in God and who he appoints to, and no matter how things seem or how useless or like unhopeful things may seem at first, you have to like have faith and knowing in his power because he will never leave us if we never leave him.
Excellent. You all have to give yourselves a high five. I'm clapping. And Sister Cynthia, what do you have to say after all of this?
WOW. Wow. That's what I have to say. So far you all have really given us a buffet, a smorgasbord. I don't know if the listeners will be able to digest all of this in one episode. They're going to have to go back, hit rewind, pause, chew, sit there, wait. You know, when at Thanksgiving, sometimes you have to push back from the table. This is good. Thank you all for you all unpacking and giving us the three stories of the words that you all use: respect, authority, obedience. I'm telling you, those are wonderful examples of what happens when you follow and give respect, obey. You gave what happens, the rewards, and you gave us the consequences of disobedience. And I love Samuel 15:22. God values us following his commands over performing rituals, religious rituals. So that statement in Samuel's 15:22 is obedience is better than sacrifice. And in those stories, those parables that you shared with us, there was so many golden nuggets of obedience and just like you say, devotion. You use the word devotion when you told us about the story of Ruth and Naomi. So that's my 2 cents for right now. I have more to say, but I want to listen. Just like the listeners of this podcast, I am telling you all, I am sitting here gleaning, sitting at the feet of two sisters, two powerful sisters who have just shared dynamic stories that are in the Bible, and they made it so simplistic that anyone could understand it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Cynthia. Now, Emunah listeners, we've shown you the biblical stories, but Samara also wants to talk about the Hunchback of Notre Dame. as the secular version. So tell us just a little bit, Sister Samara. Give us a brief summary of the story.
So the story is about a judge named Frollo who was appointed to look after his town. And he is the antagonist of the story because he abuses his power. And I wanted to talk about specifically the song that is called Hellfire because I feel like it's representation of who he is and what Christians have to deal with. He deals with lust, he deals with wrath, and he deals with just like jealousy, and he deals with his like own ego over things, and he thinks that he is so justly proud that his virtue is like justified. And when he sings Hellfire, he like quotes about having a burning desire that is turning him to sin. And his fire is lust, which consumes his morality and turns him into the literal intent to burn down like all of Paris to force a woman to be his. And in his own mind, he feels like he is being her savior and that he is redeeming her by pursuing her into turning her into him. But because of this, Frollo stands in like a position in a place like only God belongs, where he thinks he is right. And I heard this quote that it was like allowing people to like elevate the messenger above the source like being God and the messenger being Frollo, because he had such a high standing that everybody listened to him, everybody followed his rule and command because of the fear and abuse of the power he instilled. And I had, and I feel like certain people know that you cannot be above God and you cannot be virtuously proud to the point where you feel like your sin and you cannot do any wrong, that you overlook your own sins. And you can guide and you can pray, but you cannot be someone's savior. And some people have the intent to help people, but if it goes on to like disobedience, even though you have like good intentions, it's still shown as like disobedience because Frollo had no good intent. He only saw the good intent of what he was doing because he felt like it was in God's image, even though he twisted it into being the image that he saw for himself of being justly proud.
Okay, and listeners, I'm sure you understand that The Hunchback of Notre Dame is a classic. There are like 50 million versions out there. And Judge Frollo, I had to kind of get back into kind of read it over again myself. But you have Judge Frollo, who Samara talked about. But the Hunchback of Notre Dame, his name was what? Quasimodo?
Yes.
Right. And they both were trying to get the affections of what was the name of the woman?
Esmeralda.
I'm sorry?
Esmeralda.
Esmeralda. Yes, yes, they both were trying to get the affections of this one woman. And so, would you say then, Samara, that Judge Frollo is a good authority figure or a bad one?
He is a bad authority figure
And why?
because he abuses his power and standing off of his own twisted version of what God wants for him when it is only like a story that he tells himself to justify his own wrongdoings.
Right, right, because at near the end, I've forgotten how the story ended. Near the end, he said to Esmeralda, you have two choices. You either marry me or be hanged. And I laughed because she said, I'd rather be executed. thought that was funny because that showed you how much she disliked this Judge Frollo. And if you listeners, it would be really good for you to kind of go back through that story and see it um, through the lens of scripture and kind of see how Ruth and Naomi, Esther, the father and the prodigal son, how all of that shows different types of authority, good authority versus bad authority. So I guess a simple takeaway would be Frollo had authority, but he didn't have righteousness. Good authority helps people grow closer to what is good and true. Bad authority uses power to control or harm. Now, before we end this episode, listeners, the girls and I want to kind of go through good authority versus bad authority. And if you want to, listeners, take out a note paper, paper and pen, and see if you agree with them. So we're going to try something together. We're going to compare good authority and bad authority. And as we've already said, as Samara already has explained, authority means someone who has responsibility or leadership, like parents, teachers, principals, coaches, or even leaders in the Bible. We're going to use examples from the Bible and from the Hunchback of Notre Dame. As we go, tell me which side each example belongs on and why. Okay, so we have good authority versus bad authority. Shylah, Samara, you ready?
Yes.
Mhm.
Emunah listeners, you ready? Okay, so I'm going to tell you, I'm going to describe a characteristic. You tell me whether it's good authority or bad authority. Okay, protects people.
Good authority.
Okay, controls people.
Bad authority.
Reflects God's love.
Good authority.
Reflects pride or anger.
Bad authority.
Uses power for personal gain.
Bad authority.
Uses power to help others.
Good authority.
Good authority.
Okay. Listens before judging.
Good authority.
Okay. Refuses to listen.
Bad authority.
Threatens or scares.
Oh,
Bad authority.
Teaches and guides.
Good
Good authority.
And last, shows compassion.
Good authority.
Shows cruelty or favoritism.
Bad authority.
Okay. Creates fear or shame.
Bad authority.
Encourages growth.
Good authority.
Great, great. Great. Now, here's our closing reflection question for the girls. So, who wants to answer this one? And listeners, also see how you would answer this too. One way I can show respect this week in school is.
Okay. Do you want to go or I go?
We can both go.
Wait, do we have to? Can we both go?
Okay, sure.
One way that you can like show respect to like authority, like an authority in like school, is you can just maybe go up to like a teacher or just a random teacher that like, yeah, and you could just like basically like tell them something that like you appreciate about them or like a good authority that they have, like if they're good at if they're good at communicating like the directions, or if they're good at like managing class, like just something that you just like appreciate about them.
Oh, excellent. I love that. Okay, Samara.
I feel like you should approach them with, like a mindset, eyes like unclouded by judgment or pride. Like you should approach them and feel like you should talk to them like on a level where it's like mutual respect, and you should like talk to them about their experience at school and like just how they're feeling, because like an environment where it's like mostly about the students and how they're feeling and like putting it always above them, it will probably be refreshing to have like maybe a kid be observant about their feelings and ask them about like how they're doing and how they're feeling.
Okay. All right. And the second one quality I think good leaders should have is.
Okay. Want to go first one?
I think a good leader should have good judgment and yeah, like good judgment and clear communication.
Just one quality.
Yeah.
One, okay, good judgment.
Okay.
Okay.
I think another good quality that like authority should have is like good like advice, like maybe good like listening and hearing out. Like I don't know if that's kind of what she said, but like basically listening and be able to think of like a good advice to give them, because that's like another part of like authorities, like be able to take their advice and like their knowledge that they have.
Excellent, excellent. And listeners, I want to know, let us know, one way you're going to show respect this week and one quality you think good leaders should have. Email us at wordconsultingllc@gmail.com. Any closing comments?
Samara and Shylah, I wish you were students at my school. I think you have
I
such
would love to.
wonderful suggestions. I know teachers would love to hear from their students, and everyone likes to be praised for when they do something well or just out of the blue. So I think that that's a wonderful suggestion. Um, you all spoke about a lot of things today on the podcast, and one thing I wanted to say that knowing right from wrong is important. Having we use ethics, morals, and integrity. Our ethics are the principles that determine right from wrong. Our morals are our personal beliefs that guide our behaviors. Whether we'll, so you spoke on different scenarios about an integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. So you spoke on several topics. And again, I am sure our listeners are full and they are going to have to use paper and pen like Dr. Henry suggested, because they're going to be taking notes, they're going to be studying, they're going to go back and listen and reread all of these parables that are in the Bible and research again about the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because I know I have to do my homework on that one. So I want to thank you girls for this powerful, thought-provoking episode of Following God When It's Hard. Thank you so much. Ask the girls.
Yeah.
As we close today's Ask the Girls conversation, we're reminded that respect isn't just about rules, it's about character. Obedience isn't about losing your voice, it's about learning which voices lead us closer to God. Ruth chose loyalty, Esther chose courage, the prodigal son chose humility. And each story reminds us that faith helps us recognize true authority, the kind rooted in love, wisdom, and grace. Here at Emunah, we believe growing in faith means asking honest questions, listening deeply, and learning how to live God honoring lives in the real world, at home, at school, and everywhere God sends us. Thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for growing with us. Until next time, keep the faith and keep walking in Emunah. And with that, we say,
And
and
that's the girls.
Did you know you could support this show by downloading and becoming a member of the Alive Podcast Network app? You'll experience unlimited access to Black hosted content, and we'll be able to keep bringing you amazing content week after week.